All right. Good morning. And thank you for joining our third. Um, as always, this is a space for us to learn about the other programs within the health department, for us to get some internal education going, just as well as we're, getting some community education recorded so we can share it on our social media and website platforms. Our goal is communication, further collaboration, and just a better understanding of public health as a whole. And we've been able to have now 3 separate and wonderful presenters talk about topics that we don't always get the chance to discuss as a whole. This will be recorded. We will be sharing out the link afterwards, and then we will probably use this in other places because lead education is something that Carrie and I have been talking about pretty frequently as a avenue for community education in 2025. But I am just here to do technical support. I am going to hand it over to Carrie Yeager to give our lead education. All right, Carrie, you're good to go.
All right, thank you, everybody. Hi, I am Carrie Yeager, the Director of Environmental Health here at the Butler County General Health District, and we're going to do some lead education today. Why is this important? Well, this is actually one of Governor DeWine's initiatives, and it has been the whole time he's been in office, is to get educational material out there about lead poisoning and childhood lead poisoning and what can and cannot be done. We do not have a formal lead program here at the county, as we don't really have a housing program, but we can most certainly get education out there and do little things to help with the issue of childhood lead poisoning. So of course, our mission and our vision, our mission is to prevent disease, injury, promote health, wellness, protect the environment, and achieve health equity. And our vision is to aspire to create a healthy and connected community where residents can enjoy optimal physical, emotional, and environmental health. And lead is a very big, important part of all of this. So what is lead? Lead is a naturally occurring element found in small amounts in the Earth's crust. So while it has some beneficial uses, it can be toxic to humans, animals, and cause health effects. So, what is a useful, use for lead? Well, if you've ever had an x-ray and they make you wear that, lovely thing on, that is actually lead to protect your internal organs from the radiation. So lead can help you against radiation poisoning. So if you want to learn about lead, there's a link here that you can click on, Learn About Lead. US EPA has a wonderful website where you can find a lot of useful information. So where can lead be found? It can be found in the air, it can be found in the water, soil, and unfortunately, it can be found in our homes. So let's go. So who is at risk for lead poisoning? So children under 6 are considered high risk, and that is because they are still developing and they cannot absorb the lead and work it out of their system. Adults can still get lead poisoning, even anybody over 6, and then pregnant persons are especially highly susceptible. So why do we need to educate about lead? And this is where we're going to start talking about children, especially under 6. So even low levels of lead in the blood in children can result in behavioral and learning problems, lower IQ and hyperactivity, slowed growth, hearing problems. It can cause anemia, and in rare cases, ingesting the lead can cause seizures, coma, and even death. And we'll kind of talk a little bit in the next couple slides about how they can ingest the lead. So lead can also be in pregnant women. It can accumulate in our bodies over time, and it's stored in our bones along with the calcium. But during pregnancy, it's released from the mother's body into the fetus. Breastfeeding can also transfer lead from the mother to the fetus, or to the child, sorry, and result in serious side effects to that developing child or fetus. It can cause the baby to be born too early or too small. It can hurt the baby's brain, kidneys, and nervous system. It can increase the likelihood of learning or behavioral problems, and it can put the mother at risk for miscarriage. And as we all know, these issues go back to our maternal and child health programs, where we are trying to make sure that we are that our babies are being born at the proper birth weight and they're not being born early. So by reducing lead, we can help somewhat with that. And then with adults, lead exposure can do cardiovascular effects, which is increased blood pressure and incidence of hypertension, decreased kidney function and reproductive problems, both in men and women. And over the years, we've learned what lead does to us and why we shouldn't do it or use it. Back in the 1800s, they used to paint their faces with lead paint. It was in the makeup. We've learned that does cause problems. So what do we need to do about lead? So we need to educate parents, educate physicians, educate schools and daycares, educate landlords, and educate homeowners. We need to educate. That is what you need to do about lead. If you get the lead education out, you can teach people where the lead is found and how to prevent it from entering our bodies. So parent education. Toys are a big one. Toys that are come from other countries may have lead paint. Not all countries have the same strict standards that we have here, and they may still be using lead paint. Why did they use lead in paint? Lead would help with the brighter colors, and it also would make the paint last a little longer. Of course, we're talking lead paint again. Homes that were painted before 1978 may have paint that contains lead. Why 1978? That is when they decided that lead should no longer be added to paint and that it was bad. So why is that bad? Well, when lead paint starts to crack, it chips. And when the paint chips fall onto the ground, sometimes children like to eat the paint chips. And that's the same with the toys that come from other countries with the lead paint. Small children like to put things in their mouth. They like to put the toys in their mouth. So they're chewing on that lead paint, the same as with lead paint chips that may have cracked off either interior or outside of the home, exterior of the home. Children could have the possibility of eating and ingesting those paint chips. Water. Drinking water lines in homes that are older than 1986 may have lead in the water lines or even in their well pump. So 1986 is when we stopped using lead water lines and when they decreased the amount of lead that was in the solder and the flux that is in the copper welds if you have copper piping in your house. So right now the EPA has asked all water companies to survey the homes in their area to find out if they have lead in the water lines. You would either get 3 types of letters. One letter would be you are identified as having lead in your water line. If they don't know and you just have an older house, they will tell you you may have suspect lead water lines. And the third one is you don't have it. So the water companies are also looking at this right now. So it can be in the main service lines, or it can be in the lines from that service line where your water is delivered by the company into your house. So another way you can get lead is through food. And what you want to do with that is watch out for recalls on food with products that contain lead. Last year, Environmental Health had to go out to all of our dollar stores because there was a recall on applesauce. And the applesauce contained cinnamon that was contaminated by lead. It had high lead levels in it. And there is actually a current cinnamon recall out there right now due to high lead levels. And we'll talk about food recalls in just a few minutes. So physician education. We want to make sure that physicians are testing any kids under 6, they need to be tested for lead levels. So we want to make sure our physicians know that and that they're actually writing those scripts so that the kids can go get blood draws and get their blood levels checked. Blood level checks are mandatory for kids on Medicaid and receiving WIC or JFS benefits. Some preschools, Head Starts require lead testing, and kids at high risk. So they live or frequently visit homes that have been identified as old enough to have lead paint or lead water lines. So for example, my home did not qualify when my son was small, but because he spent half of his time at my parents' house because they watched him 1920s farmhouse, he had to be tested for lead to see if he had picked up any lead poisoning from anything that would have been at their house. So if kids are being, watched at another house or spend a significant time at a house that is older than 1978, they would be considered high risk and need to be tested. So schools and childcare centers, again, you need to know if the service lines have been identified as containing lead, what plumbing materials were used, and how old is the plumbing, because we all know not all schools or childcare centers are brand new. Some of them are older. Do they know where the toys came from? So were they donated toys? Were they toys that they bought? Are they looking for recalls of those toys? We just have to make sure the toys are not have lead paint on them. Because again, little children like to put toys in their mouth. And although, yes, it also has germs, but it also could contain lead paint. Do they have any food products that have been recalled for lead, such as the applesauce? So check the consumer products, and they need to check the Consumer Product Safety Commission, which is CPSC or FDA, for those recalls. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a YouTube link. So this is actually education for schools and childcare centers on what they can do to make sure that their school is lead-free. All right, so landlord and homeowner education. Older homes need to be checked for lead paint and remediated if that lead paint is found. Homes identified as having lead service lines, tenants need to be notified and educated, provided or treatment for the drinking water. And that can be filters, or it can be education, can just be you need to run your water at the beginning of the day or anytime it has set stagnant in the lines before you actually drink the water. Homes as identified as having lead piping or piping with older copper, again, just we need to provide education, treatment for the water. Replace the piping in the home if you can. If you are replacing the piping in the home, whether you be a tenant or a landlord, please obtain a plumbing permit, because you need to do that to make sure that the plumbing is put back in correctly. All of this, is usually caught during, if a home is sold, if you have a home inspection. A lot of home inspectors, especially if you're getting a VA or an FHA loan, require you to have your water tested for lead. And it also requires somebody to check to make sure you don't have lead paint in your house. If you have lead paint in your home, what can you do? Simple, you can paint over it. Painting over it seals it so that it's not flaking off and being ingested. Or you can have somebody come out and do the paint remediation, where they take the paint off wearing masks and respirators. So this is EPA is now getting information out about lead in your drinking water. So again, copper pipes with lead solder made before 1986 could have high levels. The lead service line, that's the pipe that runs from the water main to the home. Your internal plumbing could also have it. So what the water company's responsibility is, anything to the water meter, after the water meter, is anything that is the homeowner or the landlord's responsibility. Faucets, these are new ones because some you need to watch where you're getting your faucets from. Some of the new ones are coming from overseas and can contain lead. Again, 1986 is when we stopped doing lead in things here in the United States. But if we're getting things from other countries, they may not have. So you just want to check where you're getting those faucets from. Galvanized pipe, lead particles can attach to the surface of those galvanized pipe, and you can get in your drinking water. You can also, like I said, if you have a private water system, can have lead in the well pumps, or even galvanized pipe if that's what was used to drill your well. So where can you find those recalls at? So you can go to cpsc.gov/recalls, and that will tell you any recalls that are out there on consumer products. So if you wanted to know if there was any current lead recalls, you can type in the search lead and it will just pull up the lead recalls. You can also go to recalls, market withdrawals, and safety alerts at the FDA's website. And again, you can do a search, type lead in the search bar, and it will come up with any foods containing lead. I ran a quick search last week and came up with 2 cinnamon recalls. So what does Butler County Health Department do? So we provide information on lead remediation. So we can go to either the EPA's, send you to the EPA's website or ODH's website. We provide information on where children can be tested. So children need to be tested, send them to a physician. So their physician can either test where they're at, or they can send them to a hospital to get tested. WIC also does testing if they have benefits. Provide information on who can test water for lead. Unfortunately, we cannot test water for lead due to how it has to be tested. Water has to be tested as the first draw of the day. So what does that mean is you cannot use the water for 8 to 12 hours beforehand. So at the end of the night, you can't use anything until we come take the water the next day. And unfortunately, with the time that our water samples are picked up in the morning, we can't. They pick our water samples up too early. But we can tell people who they can get to get their water tested. We administer the HEPA vacuum program. So what is that? Is that we actually have a HEPA vacuum here that we can loan out to people doing small remediations in their own home. So basically they come in, they sign a form, they take the vacuum out. It has a DVD that comes with it that tells them how to use it, how to clean it, and then it comes back. And that allows them to, sweep up any small particles, lead dust, small lead paint chips. And then we provide information to the community and to partners on lead. Right now, we've been answering a lot of phone calls due to those letters from the water purveyors that have gone out about lead in people's homes and what their next steps should be. So what can't BCGH do? We cannot test children's lead levels. We don't have that ability here to actually do those lead level tests in the kids' blood. We cannot take lead water samples, and we cannot test the home for lead. ODH can test the home for lead, though. So if a child comes up with high lead levels in their blood, we usually get notified, but the Ohio Department of Health also gets notified. They come down, they may or may not ask one of the environmental specialists to accompany them on the check of the home. It is up to them, where they'll go in and see what they can do to identify lead in the home. I have accompanied several of the ODH specialists before, and they have found lead in things that, such as blinds. So your what I thought were always vinyl blinds, when they swabbed them, it actually was covered with lead paint. They'll check the toys. They will check the water. They will check wall paint. They will look everywhere. A lot of times, areas that you don't think about in an older home would be your window seals, what paint was on them. All right. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So who can we make referrals to? So for testing children's blood levels, we can make referrals to their physician. Testing lead levels in water. For public water, it's the person who provides the water. For private water, the lab can come take it. Or they can contact others. If a child has high lead levels in their blood, ODH will contact the parents to conduct a lead assessment of the homes. Like I said, EH may be requested to accompany them. If I want to know about toys, you can purchase lead swabs at a local hardware store or online, just to test yourself. And what if I want to test my water? So you can also purchase a lead testing kit online, but the water has to be from that first draw of the day. Right? Does anybody have any questions now? Right? Then I think you guys.
I did put a note in the chat, so if you're unable to come off mute, you can put questions in the chat, and I'll make sure that I get them to Carrie. Carrie, James asked, how does lead get into cinnamon?
It's coming from the soil. So because lead can get into the air, it can get into the rainwater and come back down into the soil. So that is how it's getting into the cinnamon, is through the soil. One of the things that the EPA monitors for air quality is lead levels, especially in areas where there is manufacturing that uses lead. For example, AK Steel, they're measuring it over there to see what the lead levels are, but it can be found. Like I said, that's what causes it in like surface water, but it also causes it in your soil.
Very if there are questions that do come up after the presentation, you can email Carrie directly, or you can email me when I send out the video link of the recording, and I will make sure that I get them to Carrie and to get you an answer. But I would assume that most of the questions that anybody would have, I would also want to know the answer to. So if you send them to me, I want to see it too. Carrie, you did a great job. Thank you. I appreciate you doing this for us. What I will do is I'm going to upload this and get it all ready for everyone's view. If somebody was not able to join us today, over the next couple of weeks, it'll go out in an email, and then we'll also make it available on our health department YouTube page for sharing in the community. So if you have a program that you think could benefit from this information, we'll make sure that we're able to get it to you for public sharing. Carrie, unless you have anything else, I can go ahead and shut us down.
I have nothing else.
Awesome. Thank you. You did a wonderful job. Have a good day, everybody.